Barbie is directed by Greta Gerwig. This is a highly anticipated movie. This is supposed to be the big box office hit of the summer, and I have not seen it. I went to a early screening of it, the blowout party, as they called it, and it really performed in that sense of it being one big blowout screening. I never really quite been to a screening like this where they have the music playing from the soundtrack. People are all excited. They had like a Barbie box to get in and take pictures in outside of the theater. They gave us Barbie pins. They gave us posters. The energy was there, or should I call it the Kenergy? Like everything was just there and was really heightened up to make for the best viewing experience. I saw this in Dolby, and it was presented very, very well with the soundtrack at the base. It was constantly in our seat. The I do want to point out that this movie looks really good. I feel like this is something I'm going to forget to say, but the visuals, like I really felt like they had like the best, most crisp 4K camera, and they used it really, really well. I was watching this beautiful Dolby screen. I'm just like, I see every inch of their face, and it looks really, really sharp. And I've been able to say that about every single movie I saw lately, but this movie looks really, really crisp and sharp. Speaking of the way it presents itself, the production design, excellent. This movie looks insane because of like how accurate it looks like to like Barbie playsets. It just all looks so a Barbie world, as they call it. And how was the movie? How was this movie? Did I like it? I am a fan of Greta Gerwig. I really liked almost everything I've seen of her. I really, really love Lady Bird, and I really, really liked Little Women. I haven't seen her other features, but what I've seen of her, I really liked. So I was curious, like, what is she gonna do with Barbie? Now that I have seen the movie, I understood why she wants to do it, and I really, really had a great time with this. It's not perfect. I have my complaints, and it might even be my least favorite of what I've seen from her, but this is still a fantastic movie that I had a great time watching. This cast is stacked. You've all seen the cast by now. Huge cast, and every single one of them delivers. Ryan Gosling is obviously the big chatter of the town right now. If he's going to get that Best Supporting Actor nod, I think him winning the Oscar is a little like much. I think he was really good in the movie. He was one of the standouts, but I don't think he stole the show and like this was his movie and this is his Oscar. I think this was a good branching out for him and can show that he can have some range besides like the pouty guy that we see most of the time. He does a great job at that, but I think it's just really nice to see Ryan Gosling doing something different, and it was a lot of fun to watch. Best supporting actor, though, I don't know. I mean, I just think it's a little much to be saying that, but if he gets a nomination, I'll be fine with that. If he wins, I don't know. It depends on what the competition's like. Margot Robbie is great. She really, really like embraced the Barbie in her, and this is people are calling this the role she was born to play, and I agree with that. She really looks and feels the part. I really enjoyed her as Barbie throughout. Sold the emotional moments really, really well. And another big thing I appreciated about this movie, it's emotional. It has tons of emotion put behind it, and it has quite a heavy message. Like, and I didn't really know if I should expect that because I know we get that from Greta Gerwig's other films. I just didn't know if that would necessarily be a Barbie movie thing, and it was a Barbie movie thing. It had a very like a really strong emotional core. In fact, I'm going to go on my way and say that this is the strongest emotional core I've seen in a movie since Everything Everywhere All at Once of last year. This movie is almost nothing like it, but when it comes to its emotion and how it pays off in that third act, they're both very similar in that way. But I do think that this movie has some flaws that should be addressed that a movie like Everything Everywhere doesn't have. Also, I feel like a rewatch of this movie could help and fix those issues. I can't help but feel that this movie was supposed to be longer, but part of me doesn't think that either because Greta Gerwig's other films are also on the short side. This movie is under 2 hours, but I couldn't help but feel that it needed some more in some areas I was kind of not so amazed by in the movie. And maybe it's just things that needed to be cut, and it's just as simple as that. But I don't think that Noah Baumbach and Greta Gerwig would put together a screenplay where something like that was obviously needed to be cut. I feel like there was more to it, and they just had to cut it because the studio wanted it to be under 2 hours. That's what it felt like to me. It could just be a flaw in the screenplay, but I just felt like some characters didn't need to be there and made the third act drag on just a little bit more than it should have. But at the same time, these characters that I felt kind of nothing with were too integral to the plot itself, particularly like with Will Ferrell's character. He kind of takes the partial antagonist form of this movie, but at the same time, this movie takes a direction I didn't expect it to take, where Will Ferrell's character can be gone and you still kind of have an antagonist to, reckon with. So I just couldn't help but feel that his character, his storyline just didn't necessarily need to be in the movie. And sometimes, whenever we're on the real world with this character, it took me out of the movie a little bit just because the whole idea of being in the real world is that we're in reality now, and these two over the top characters are just walking Earth. But then we cut to Will Ferrell's character, that's just and him and his supporting staff, and it's just so with them over the top. But I felt like with more time and a little bit more depth, it could have worked. But I did not have enough time with those characters, nor enough to really grab onto to be like, yeah, that's 100% necessary in the movie. And when the movie's trying to wrap everything up, it's tying all these storylines, and you're feeling happy and yay, it's Barbie, and it's kind of making you emotional at the same time. It just only felt more obvious when these characters are wrapping up their storyline, and you're just kind of like, you didn't need to be in the movie, because it becomes a little abundantly clear at the end of who needed to be in the movie and who didn't need to be in the movie. But at the same time, like I said, I felt like this movie was supposed to be longer, or maybe it was just supposed to be shorter, and it's just something that shouldn't have ever been in the script. But I don't know. I wasn't part of this process, but that's just me theorizing. I had such a fun time with this movie. This movie has big soundtrack, and were playing the entire soundtrack in front of the screening. That was a lot of fun to hear before the movie. Billie Eilish has a song at the end that really pounds home that emotional core, and she did a great job singing that, and it really fit the tone of the movie. All the songs felt like they were placed at the right moment and never felt like they were just interjected in there just to be a song in the Barbie movie that's just there because it's a certain artist singing it. Everything there felt like that's placed there for a reason, and it worked. That was another big thing I was concerned about. Like, you have so many artists singing for this movie. I just hoped that there wasn't a place where a song felt out of place, and it didn't, thankfully. Another big question is this movie for kids? I don't know. I feel like this is a movie later middle schoolers and up should see it, but I feel like anyone like below like 11 years old, I feel like if an 11 or 10-year old watched it, they'd understand it, but it'd be too almost depressing for them. But if they were any younger, it would just fly over their head. And anyone older, like 12 years old, would be fine. I mean, there's some jokes in there that maybe they shouldn't really be hearing, but besides, it's not that big a deal. It's nothing. I like the movie the way it was. I don't think it needed to be any less PG-13 esque, because I really think the market for this movie is honestly middle schoolers, high schoolers, and anyone in their like early 20s. And I think this movie did a really good job at having that broad appeal, because even though it was a Barbie movie, it really works on all fronts. Like, obviously, I'm not a Barbie girl, and I really enjoyed the movie, and I think other people will too. I took my 12-year-old nephew with me, and he had a great time, and he is not a Barbie girl either. We all had a really good time. The entire audience I was with was laughing the entire time. This movie is hysterical. Many good jokes throughout that I couldn't help but crack up with too. And I just want to save it for the movie. There's one joke, I don't want to say too much, but it's just a reference to Margot Robbie being the star of it, and it is probably the biggest laugh it got out of me. Yeah, it was perfectly meta, not too meta. It wasn't annoyingly meta. It told a message that didn't feel like it was being shoved down our throats and making us dislike Barbie as a character. It was all really, really well done, and it was perfect thematically. I just wish story-wise some things were cut. I really enjoyed Barbie, and I'm going to give it an 8.8 out of 10. A very, very well-made movie, a very emotional movie, a very heartfelt movie. Just lots of detail put in throughout. Greta Gerwig did a great job directing many of these musical numbers. Greta Gerwig just understood her assignment, did a great job with it. This is most likely the best version of a Barbie movie that we could get, minus like a couple of nitpicks that I have, but besides that, this is such a great time. So yeah, comment down below what you guys thought of Barbie. Did you guys love it? Did you guys hate it? I want to know. Comment down below what you guys thought. Like, share, subscribe, and stuff like that, and adios.